Now this is how you grill prime rib, and I'll show you how. Just follow me and let's turn up the tasty. Prime rib is a great way to feed a lot of people for those special occasions, whether it's Christmas, Thanksgiving, Kwanzaa, Columbus Day, or maybe your girl has an appetite for a big old piece of meat on Valentine's Day. No matter what the occasion, this is sure to impress anyone you cook for. Now, what is prime rib? Well, first of all, it's not necessarily prime grade beef. It's also known as a standing rib roast, and here it is, right here. Now, they serve this boneless, as it is right here, or with the bones in. Because I'm buying this out of season, typically they're really made during the holiday season. It was kind of tough to find. I prefer to cook bone on, but this one is boneless. Typically the bones go right here. Even when I buy it bone on, I typically trim the bones away myself, or I have the butcher do that for me. Prime rib though is just basically a ribeye. Right here, we have it right here. Take a look, come on in, look real close. These are 2 ribeye steaks. The prime rib cut into slices is this ribeye steak, and you can see it right here. Look at the similarities. This part right here on both, that's called the spinalis. It's typically one of the most desired cuts of steak anywhere. Why? Because it's tender flavor and rich marbling give it a tremendous flavor. It's also known as rib cap, and when professional chefs go to order a steak, this is typically the part that they like most. So we have some butcher twine right here. Now, why trust it at all? Well, it's gonna promote a more even cook throughout. It's gonna keep that meat nice and tight as it goes through the cooking process. What we're gonna do is just tie it. Now, there's many different ways to tie it. I'm just gonna show you a very simple way. We have some string that's cut long enough right here, some butcher twine. We're just gonna wrap it around twice and pull that nice and tight. From here, you can just do a really simple knot. It doesn't have to be fancy. If you're a Boy Scout, you know how to do better knots, go ahead and do that too, but it doesn't have to be difficult. It can be fairly simple. And I'm just gonna do this 3 different times across the roast. That will keep it nice and tight as it cooks. Now we're just gonna cut off this excess string at the top, remove that. All right, one quick note about this prime rib. If it comes served with bones, like I said earlier, you cut them away, but then you can truss with the bone so it just kind of sits up on there. One thing about cooking with bone in, and this is true of any cut of meat, it's always going to be rarer closer to the bone. So if you want to minimize your chance of messing it up, I suggest going without the bones. Now it's time to season it. And you can really season it with whatever you like. The key is we want to get a binder on there. So today I'm using softened butter. I've seen people use mustard. I've seen people use extra virgin olive oil. So I have some softened butter here. I have 2 tablespoons of rosemary, chopped finely. You can use thyme, oregano. I'm gonna put about half of that in. I'm gonna reserve the other half. We're gonna go ahead and get this mixed up. And for right now, the only thing I mix in here is the rosemary. And that allows it to really stick well to the prime rib. We'll get this coated on all sides. And just like other forms of cooking, it can be a little bit messy.
That's what she said.
But when it's messy, it's usually tasty. So I have a little bit of butter left in there because some of it's gonna stick to the cutting board when I flip. I'm gonna go ahead and get it seasoned. You can really use whatever you like. Now, I like to keep it easy, and I'm using this Code 3 Grunt Rub spices right here. It's heavy in garlic, but look, there's so many different things you can use. If you don't have this, just make your own, right? Use some kosher salt, some fresh garlic. You could even mix that in with the butter if you prefer. Basically, anything that you would like on steak, you're gonna like on this. There's hundreds of different rib roasts and things available, but you know, if you're looking for measurements, this is about a 5-pound roast, and I would think about 5 to 6 tablespoons of seasoning would work. So as you can see, I'm getting that on there heavy, and we're gonna flip it. Some of that butter's stuck, so I'm gonna go ahead and reapply a little bit to the top. Go ahead and pat that in there and get it on all sides here, guys. This is a big cut of meat. You will not over season this. I mean, the seasoning's just going to be on the outside. Some of this is going to stick to the grill as we cook as well. As I said earlier, I know this looks like a lot of seasoning, but remember, it just goes around the exterior. The interior of this thing has no seasoning at all. With that said, it's time to get it on the grill. Follow me. So in order to cook this, we're gonna need two-zone cooking, direct heat and indirect heat. We're gonna place this over indirect heat. This is a big old cut of meat, and it's gonna take a while to cook. If we put that over direct heat, especially with all that butter, it's gonna burn, and that would be no bueno. So let's go ahead and get this on. I threw in a couple apple chips in there to just add a little bit of smoke flavor. I also have a drip pan as well to collect all this butter as it melts. That can really gum up your grill if it just drips down into the bottom. So we're gonna let this thing cook at about 275 degrees Fahrenheit. If it's at 300 or 250, look, don't sweat it. There may be some swings as it cooks. Here's the most important thing, don't overcook it. Check that temperature regularly. There are some thermometers that you can place in the meat and monitor the temperature as it cooks. If you don't have that, you can always use an instant read thermometer, but check it regularly. Look, you don't want to overcook that thing. You have all your guests showing up here in a couple of hours, and you don't want to serve them overcooked meat. Look, you're gonna have enough concerns just listening to Uncle Johnny tell you about conspiracy theories for a few hours. You don't need to hear him complain about how you overcooked an expensive prime roast too. Prime rib roast. So again, check it regularly. I'm gonna shoot for a temperature, I like rare, of about 115 degrees Fahrenheit when I pull it off. I'm gonna grab a beer and I'll be right back. All right, we've been cooking about an hour and a half. Let's check it out. Starting to get some really nice color on that. We'll just take an internal temperature read. I'm sure it's not done, but just to give you guys an update of where it's at. About 80 degrees, right? From here, I'm just going to rotate it. You know, sometimes grills have hot zones and hot spots, so I think it's a good idea to rotate the roast to sort of balance it out as it cooks. So we're just gonna go ahead and do a total flip, get that side a little closer to the heat. Now I have the remaining rosemary I chopped up, a tablespoon and about 2 tablespoons of butter. We're just gonna go ahead and baste over the top of this. Now, why am I basting it? Well, a lot of that butter is melted off, right? Some of that time is dripped down into the drip pan. And butter makes everything better, so why not? Now, I'm just gonna come back in about 30 minutes and check on it. All right, so this has been cooking for about 2.5 hours. Let's get that temperature. Right in the middle, we're at 114, right? But this is a big old roast. That's right in the middle. If I go down to the bottom of the roast, you'll see I'm at about 123, 125. And if I go up to the top of the roast, I'm at, well, about 125, kind of moving around, and I think that's to be expected, right? It's a big roast, so the exterior is gonna be a little warmer than the interior, but I'm comfortable with these temperatures. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this off, and we're gonna let it sit up for about 30 minutes and rest, and then my favorite part, test the results. All right, guys, this took about 2.5 hours from beginning to end. It's about 5 pounds, so that's a half hour per pound. Also, I may have mentioned it out there, but I'll say it again. I did drop a couple cherry wood chips in there at the beginning of the cook. Not actually smoking it, but just to give it some nice color and flavor. And as you can see, look at that nice mahogany color it has. It looks just tremendous. I can't wait to see how it tastes. But before I do that, I'm gonna remove the butcher twine here. Get in there, right there. Right there. Okay, now that I have that removed, let's cut in and see how it looks. It's probably gonna be a little bit more cooked on this side than in the center. Let's cut right in, right here. Okay, and right here to the center. That looks awesome. Oh, take a look at this, guys. These studio lights sometimes do funky things to the colors, but I can tell you that looks absolutely tremendous. One thing I want to show you is that spinalis right there. Look at all that color in there. It is the same color as the interior and the bottom. A lot of times when you go with that high temperature bake, hit it at 500, that's going to be a casualty. You're gonna end up with a gray spinalis, and this is one of the best parts. Now, it's gonna hold up because there's so much fat in there, and as you hear me say every single video, The fat is where it's at. That's where beef meat in general gets a lot of its flavor. Now, from here, one other thing you can do if you have some leftover that basting butter, just go ahead and get some of that on there. I mean, it's not gonna make it worse. Butter makes everything better. Now, let's see how this tastes. Let's go right here, right across the spinalis. We'll get this exterior piece. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not doing a review. I'm just gonna eat the whole thing. Just to share with you what I'm getting. I'm picking up some smoky notes from that cherry wood. I like cherry wood. It's nice and mild. Unlike some of the other woods that give it a much stronger or spicier flavor, this is really mild. Granny and the kids won't mind it at all. So I'm first getting hit with those smoky notes. Then I'm getting some of the garlic and salt and pepper from the rub. Of course, the butter and the rosemary just makes it so delectable and so delicious. Edge to edge, I'd say like a rare to a medium rare. And as you can see right here, edge to edge color. That spinalis has all the color, the same color that we see here on the inside. Look, it's a great way to free up some oven space for other dishes that need to cook, like Aunt Susie's casserole. Also, if you happen to live in a warm part of the country, it's a great way to keep your house nice and cool as you're going through a long cook, waiting for your guests to come over. When you guys try this for yourselves at home, we'd love your feedback in the comments below. Pop back in, let us know how it turned out for you. Did you like it? Did you use our seasoning? Did you use cherry chips? Did you use something else or no chips at all? Until then, I'm gonna get back to my dinner. I'll see you guys next time.